Phil Mendoza again, welcome back. Once again, I'm with the same shirt on, right? I haven't showered in many days, as some of you may think, but actually that's not true. So, the last thing I want to talk about in this video series on release selection, release execution, is the practice, is what you should be doing, and the progression, I should say, of introducing one of these to your game, or maybe potentially even hunting with one of these. So I always encourage, and I wish that these type of releases were less expensive, because as me and my pro shop, I would wish I could put one of these in everybody's hands with their first bow purchase, because this is my opinion is the right tool to teach someone how to aim properly with a compound bow. Very different from aiming with a rifle, where in one circumstance you can be on a bench rest, very little pressure anywhere. A super light trigger is optimal or desired in many cases. When you're shooting a compound, obviously you've got pressure built up, so you've got that tension already built in within your body structure, and then you're trying to aim under tension and then try to do a fine motor skill of executing a shot, whether you're squeezing, pulling, or lightening of tension in your finger. Once you add that many variables into the shot process that is a compound shot, it can become difficult. It can start to introduce anxiety issues. So if you've got any anxiety issues, target panic, punching on the trigger, any of that stuff, freezing under a target where your pin, stops right under the spot, the spot's right here, and you can get your pin to here, but then you can't get it, you just physically or mentally, your mind does not let you put it in the center of the target. A pull-through style release can help you with that, as can a hinge, but I always encourage you to start with a pull-through. This, I feel, is the bridge from problems, building blocks, to potentially, fine-tuning your setup. Okay, so that's how I feel. That's my opinion. A lot of people say everybody's got opinions, some stink worse than others, but that's mine, and that's what I'm going to encourage people to do, based off my experiences, what I've seen from my personal experiences, and also in the shop. Now, practicing with one of these, I've already alluded to the string bow, right? There's string bows. There's other tools on the market where you can get under simulated pressure and practice a shot. You can do this anywhere. I like to travel with this when I'm going out on an out-of-town trip and I can't bring my bow, because I can always get to where I can shoot 20-30 shots a day without ever having to bring my bow anywhere. It's just working on the shot execution. So to start out, I would encourage you to get a string bow, and like I said, when you're shooting with one of these, learn the release, learn the feel, learn the anchor positioning, because if you're used to shooting an index finger, you're anchoring like this, or some variation of that, you're shooting a hinge or a pull through, your hand gets rotated over and you're anchoring potentially on a different part of your face. So learn your anchor position, learn the motions, learn to make sure you're executing and squeezing and engaging your back. Number one. I would suggest you do this for as many shots as you can a day. Again, with this, it's easy to do a lot of shots, because you're not having to draw your bow, you're not getting tired, you can do it anywhere. So, even if it's a 25 to 50 shots a day where you're starting, if not more, with one of these, the more you do, the more you're going to get used to it. From there, I would suggest getting in front of a bale, 5 to 7 yards, blank bailing, and really working on that shot. Some people like to close their eyes, draw the bow back, and really feel. Just focus on the feel of the shot, from the pressing the safety or releasing the safety, and really engaging your back and starting to drive your front hand toward the target and squeeze. That's what I feel is the best way to teach someone to shoot. And if you're dealing with anxiety issues, it's a great way to work through those as you're really focusing on the feel and squeezing through each shot. The next progression would be obviously shooting at targets close distance and moving back. The hinge. In the hinge, I would encourage you to do the same thing. As the more you can do with the string bow and get used to how this release functions in your hand. If you can get to a shop that allows you to demo releases like ours does, you can shoot many different releases, 3-finger, 4-finger, 2-finger. You're able to get a feel for what you feel is comfortable, what you can draw back comfortably. Some have a wide platform here, some have a lot more rounded platform, and it's really a feel thing with the hinge. Here's why I feel someone should start with a pull-through as opposed to a hinge though. If you have anxiety issues pretty bad and you're using a puncher and you can't even get your pin on the target, or 1 out of every 3 shots you're hammering the trigger before the pins are even close. With a pull-through style release, once you get that first 200 or 300 or 400 shots with a string bow or with your bow, and you've learned that, and you can learn to almost unplug your mind as to it has to go off, and you're allowing yourself to squeeze through a shot again, you can actually work one of these into your off-season, your shot routine, and get into shooting targets fairly quickly with one of these. You don't have to spend thousands of arrow time learning how to shoot that. You can actually get into shooting again quicker. With a hinge, this is something that can take more arrows, can take more time to understand. And know that the biggest difference between releases in the hinge category, some of them have a swept back design, some of them have a more vertical design, some of them have micro adjust heads. The biggest thing I would say is a fit in your hand is number one for me. The second thing is based off your execution style. If you're relaxing your pointer finger, or if you're squeezing tension. Again, I really don't like to focus on the guys that just rotate their hand, because that's, in my opinion, not a desirable way to shoot this release. But the action of these releases are all slightly different. So I'll show you guys a clip. I've got a release issue, right? I've got probably about 20 releases floating around my house that they're all slightly different. I've always went back to this Old Faithful. This is an older style BT Gold Ultra 3 because of the wide platform. Something I'll get into more detail in a later video is understanding how these heads all differ from each other from a point of where they actually attach to your D-loop in relation to where your hand is in the release. It affects your anchor, it affects your D-loop positioning, it can affect a lot of things. So that gets to be a little bit more on the technical side. Right now I want to just focus on functionality and understanding properly the different platforms. So again, if you've got really bad issues with target panic or anxiety, I encourage you to start with a pull-through. If you just want to try something new and you really don't have anxiety issues, it's not out of the question to start with the hinge style release. But those are my reasons why I feel like that pull-through allows you to just focus on one thing, and that is squeezing and driving towards the target. The hinge, you still have to connect your mind again into, okay, start to relax that hand, stay engaged, pull back through, and aim. So there's a process there. So some people can learn it very quickly.